For the best experience, put on headphones and write a comment where you are from and what time you are watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe. Han, I'm back. Dylan called out as he stepped into the apartment, closing the door behind him. The place was a gem, a rare find for a building dating back to 1812. Its history gave it character, but the eerie feeling that came with such an old place wasn't lost on him. Even with the charm, the building felt different. The apartment itself was perfect for Dylan and his wife, Jasmine. High ceilings, 15 feet to be exact, and massive windows that stretched 9 feet high gave the place an elegant, almost grand atmosphere. The kitchen was modern, a contrast to the old-world feel of the rest of the building, and it seemed to fit them just right. However, while their new home was lovely, the building, with its age, carried an unnerving silence that seemed to press in on them, especially as the days slipped into evening. "Hey, Han." Jasmine smiled as she came out of the guest room to greet him. Her hazel eyes sparkled as she embraced him, standing on her tiptoes to kiss him. At just 5'2", she always had to stretch a little to meet Dylan's lips, who, at 5'3", wasn't much taller but still had the slight advantage. "How was work?" she asked, looking up at him. "It was fine, nothing too crazy. How's the unpacking going?" Dylan glanced around the room. A few boxes still cluttered the space, but compared to the chaos of a few days ago, the apartment was starting to feel more like home. "Almost done," Jasmine said, her excitement barely contained. "It's getting there." Dylan nodded. "That's great. Oh, I forgot my bag in the car. Be right back." He kissed her again before heading toward the door. "Love you." Stepping outside, he noticed how different the building seemed in the fading sunlight. The 3-story structure loomed over him, casting long shadows. The crumbling brick facade, while charming in daylight, now appeared more sinister. The entrance hall inside the building had an old-fashioned feel to it, like a grand conference room that had seen better days. A worn blue carpet covered the floor, its once vibrant color now dull. The right side of the hallway led to apartments 3 and 4, his and Jasmine's home. The left side held doors to other areas, including a staircase leading up to 2 smaller apartments, and another door that led to the basement, a place Dylan had never explored. Until today. Curiosity got the better of him. Instead of going straight to his car, he found himself drawn to the basement door. He hesitated, his hand hovering over the knob before finally turning it. The door creaked open, revealing a staircase that led down into the dimly lit lower level of the building. The sunlight barely reached down there, filtering through tiny basement windows that lined the top of the walls. Dylan descended slowly, each step stirring up a small cloud of dust. The walls were cold to the touch, made of stone, and weathered with age. The basement was vast, much larger than he had expected. Old rooms, once used as classrooms, now served as storage spaces for the landlord and previous tenants. As he wandered deeper, the light grew dimmer, and soon, the only illumination came from a few faint reflections from the windows. The further he ventured, the more unsettling the atmosphere became. At the back of the basement, he found a room where the light was dim but present. The window was painted over with thick black paint, except for a small crack where light slipped through. The room itself was filled with random items: dressers, boxes, and a disassembled bed frame. Bugs, long dead, were scattered on the floor, and dust covered everything, giving the room a reddish tint as the setting sun's rays struggled to penetrate the black paint. Then, something caught Dylan's eye, a large shape behind one of the bed frames. It was covered in several layers of blankets, each taped securely around it. The bundle was about 8 feet tall, leaning heavily against the wall. "What is this?" Dylan muttered to himself. Why would someone go through so much trouble to wrap something like this and then leave it behind? Everything else in the basement was just lying around, unprotected, so what made this object special? Unable to resist, Dylan began peeling away the tape and unraveling the blankets one by one. As he worked, the object beneath began to reveal itself, an old, elaborately framed mirror. The wooden frame was dark, almost black, with intricate engravings etched into it. Strange symbols encircled the mirror, symbols that Dylan didn't recognize but felt compelled to trace with his fingers. Wiping away the dust, Dylan stared at his reflection. His brown eyes looked back at him, but something felt off, though he couldn't quite put his finger on it. He leaned in closer, placing his hand on the glass. Was it fatigue? The long workday? No, his reflection was just wrong. But how? You shouldn't be down here, a voice said suddenly, making Dylan jump. He spun around to see James, one of his neighbors who lived upstairs with his family, standing in the doorway. James, you scared me. Dylan let out a shaky laugh, trying to calm his racing heart. James didn't respond. His face was blank, almost hollow. You shouldn't be down here, he repeated, his voice flat. Dylan glanced at the mirror. I was just looking around. Is this yours? He pointed to the mirror, hoping to break the uneasy silence. James stepped closer, and in the dim light, Dylan noticed something in his hand. An old worn axe. Not mine, James said quietly. It's theirs. James? Dylan asked cautiously, taking a step back. Are you okay? I haven't been okay in a long, long time, James replied, his eyes vacant as he lifted the axe. Before Dylan could react, James swung the axe down with brutal force. The blade sank deep into Dylan's skull, ending his life instantly. James stepped back, his expression unchanged as he watched Dylan's lifeless body slump to the floor. He grabbed Dylan by the arms, dragging the body across the floor until it was propped up against the mirror. A soft smile tugged at the corners of James' lips as he waited. The air in the room grew colder, heavier, as if something was drawing the life from the very atmosphere. Then, slowly, a thin, skeletal arm emerged from the glass. It reached out, gripping Dylan's head before pulling the lifeless body into the mirror. Moments later, the mirror was empty again, as if nothing had happened. The reflection was as normal as ever. James waited impatiently, tapping his foot against the floor. The room grew unnaturally cold, and the sense of suffocation became overwhelming. A foot appeared from the mirror, followed by a leg. Soon, an entire figure stepped out, identical to Dylan in every way. Same clothes, same hair, same face. But it wasn't Dylan. The creature's limbs were contorted, twisted at unnatural angles. It moved slowly, its body cracking and snapping as it straightened, taking on Dylan's shape perfectly.